Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. We are back again with some more news for the Florida State Seminoles coming out of the transfer portal. Former Alabama running back Roydell Williams commits to Mike Norvell in the Florida State Seminoles. And before we get into Roydell Williams and what he brings to the table for Florida State, an experienced back that spent a lot of time running the football in the SEC, I want to talk about a narrative that I'm seeing pop up on Twitter, popping up on the message boards, and that is that Florida State is being too reliant on the transfer portal. And I thought I saw a quote or a term used as mercenaries, right? And you guys know how I feel about Mike Norvell and the culture that he's created in Tallahassee. And I don't think anybody who follows that program can even doubt for 1 second that the Florida State culture is not extremely strong within that locker room. But I want to have more of a conversation regarding how to use the transfer portal and kind of what I think Mike Norvell and this coaching staff are doing a really good job of. And that is using the transfer portal, not just to bring in as many players as you can and overturn this roster, but more taking a reflection on the roster that you have, the roster that you're heading into the 2024 season with, and saying, where do we need to add depth, experience, and talent? And that's kind of what I think Florida State is doing. This is not just we're sending out offers to every single name that's available in the portal. I think Mike Norvell has looked at this roster and said, all right, where are the positions that we might be thin on, that we might be lacking experience on, or that we might be lacking talent on? And then that is the positions and the kind of players that they're going after in the transfer portal. We had the conversation. A lot of these guys that are coming into Tallahassee through the portal have multiple years of eligibility remaining, but they're also grabbing guys that, all right, we needed some more depth. We needed some more experience at certain positions. And I think the running back room was one of those positions that we identified, right? Losing a guy like Trey Benson, having a few guys hit the transfer portal. I mean, you look at that running back room, you have Lawrence Tuafili, who, again, I think is a phenomenal football player. I don't know if you want him to be the bell cow running back. You have a true freshman in Cam Davis coming in, who I think is going to play early as a true freshman. And then you bring in a guy like Roydell Williams, who, I mean, you kind of lacked maybe that experience bell cow back. You go out and grab a Roydell Williams who has played 4 years in the SEC, has over 230 carries to his name, over 1,000 yards. To me, this seems like a perfect fit in terms of what Florida State needed as to kind of fill out their depth chart. Want to get into Roydell Williams, talk a little bit about what Florida State has done in the portal. Before we get into it, just want to say thank you to you guys, and a special shout out, as always, to the Florida State fans. This has been an extremely busy week tracking all of these transfer portal commitments. I've been having a blast breaking them down. Cannot thank you guys enough for rocking with the fellas. If you guys do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Again, cannot thank the Florida State fans for all the support you guys have shown the last couple of weeks. And without further ado, let's get into Roydell Williams. And the first thing that I want to talk about, and I went back and watched Roydell Williams a couple days ago as it sounded like he was picking up steam, trending to Florida State. The first thing I'll say is he runs hard. Like, it is not really much nonsense in his game. He wants to get downhill. He invites contact, and he's an extremely physical running back that is extremely physically developed, right? 5'10", 215 pounds, a strong lower half, always seems to fall forward, which I think is not necessarily the flashiest trait for a running back, but a running back that when you're kind of getting those hidden 2 or 3 yards, right? Turning a 2nd and 8 to a 2nd and 6, turning a 3rd and 5 to a 3rd and 3. Those yards matter. And a guy like Roydell Williams, he kind of finds those kind of yards, always falling forward, extremely physical. And again, no nonsense in his running back game, in his running game, I should say. And then you look at how he balances out that running back room, and I think he comes in and kind of provides that veteran bell cow back that Florida State might have been lacking with the departure of Trey Benson. Now, Lawrence Tuafili, he's going to get his work, but he's not a guy that you probably want having 20-plus carries a game. So Roydell Williams comes in and balances him out. And again, if you're trying to do what Florida State's doing, and that is win an ACC championship game, win the college football playoffs, you need to have depth in that running back group. That's a position group that gets banged up. You want to keep those guys fresh, or you're playing your best football in the months of November, December, and January. And I think Roydell Williams allows you to keep those running backs fresh in that room. Now, I do want to reference Cam Davis. This is a guy that I watched at the All-American Bowl. He's going to be really good. And I think he's going to play a lot as a true freshman, but you have Roydell Williams in now. So you don't have to rush Cam Davis on the field if he's not ready, right? It might take him a couple weeks. It might take him 6, 7, 8 weeks to kind of get his feet under him at the college football level. Cam Davis will play, but you add a guy like Roydell Williams and you kind of feel good about letting Cam Davis take his time in terms of the progression and getting him ready to play at the next level. Now, I want to talk about taking a look at this Florida State class. I mean, they brought in 12 transfers, but I want to focus on two things. One, the particular positions they're targeting were positions that we wanted them to address 4 weeks ago when we made our Florida State transfer portal wish list, right? Adding guys at the defensive line position, specifically that edge rusher position, adding some depth to the offensive line. You scroll down, you have a guy like Malik Benson that, again, tradesy guy, Jalen Brown, another young guy that you can build around, Earl Little II. A really big fan of not only the quality of players, but the players at the specific positions, right? Positions that we wanted to see Florida State add some depth, add some talent to. That's kind of what they're doing. Now, the last guy I want to talk about, and I actually went back and watched him a little last night against the Georgia Bulldogs, is Richie Leonard IV. He's also on campus. Sounds like that visit is going well as well. And we'll break it down when and if he does commit. But this is a guy that I'm a really big fan of because it's really hard to find starting caliber offensive linemen in the transfer portal. And a guy like Richie Leonard IV started all 12 games for the Florida Gators in 2023. He's a guy that's reliable. He stays healthy and kind of a stalwart in the middle of that Florida Gators offensive line, 6'2", 310 pounds, phenomenal athlete for his size. He can work up to the second level. Florida likes to get those offensive linemen to the second level. And Richie Leonard IV does that at a high level. I would be a massive fan of adding a guy like Richie Leonard IV who, kind of balances out Terrence Ferguson, who you took Terrence Ferguson as a guy that if he hits, we haven't seen a ton of him at the college football level, but if he hits, he's going to be a very good interior offensive lineman. Richie Leonard IV is more of that. You kind of know what you're getting. And you're getting a guy that started a lot of games for the Florida Gators. He's reliable and will play at a high level. And so you start taking a look at this Florida State team, and there's been a lot of buzz around a potential drop-off from that 2023 season with your losing guys like Jordan Travis and Trey Benson and Keon Coleman and Johnny Wilson. But you take a look at Florida State, what they're in the transfer portal, they're kind of mitigating that drop-off. And this is a team that seems to win is going to win a lot of games in 2024. But I think a lot of Florida State fans are most excited about what the future is, right? With guys like Luke Kromenhoek and Brock Klenn coming in the chamber, Mike Norvell doing a really good job in the transfer portal, getting this team right in the specific positions that he needed to. And you'll hear the outside noise. You'll consistently hear the outside noise, but I think Florida State's doing a really nice job being calculated in the transfer portal. This is not a Florida State program that's just taking in as many bodies as they can. They've looked at this depth chart and said, we need to add at these positions. That's how you want to use the transfer portal. I think Mike Norvell and this Florida State staff are doing a really good job with it. Roydell Williams, another massive get for the Florida State Seminoles. We'll continue to keep you guys updated as the commitments roll in. Appreciate you guys rocking with the boys like you guys have been doing. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel, and we'll talk to y'all later.